Aloha, everyone. This is Chesapeake Movie Thoughts, and I had the pleasure yesterday of heading out to the movies to see Ralph Breaks the Internet, the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. And for this review, thoughts, impressions that I'm going to give here, I may get into some mild spoilers. I'm not going to give the big stuff away. But just be forewarned, there may be some mild spoilers if you want to avoid those. But a quick synopsis of the movie. Ralph, still living in the arcade, is having a pretty good life at this point. His game characters have learned to appreciate him for his bad guy status in his game, and once he punches out from work every day, he gets to hang out with his best friend Vanellope, playing games and drinking root beer. But a disaster happens when a player breaks the steering wheel from Vanellope's game Sugar Rush, and the arcade owner, Mr. Litwack, is unable to order a replacement part because the company that made that game went out of business. So there are no replacement parts available, so Sugar Rush gets unplugged, and all of the Sugar Rush game characters, including Vanellope, are homeless. But Ralph learns that a replacement steering wheel for Sugar Rush is available on this thing called eBay on the internet. And he and Vanellope decide to go on a quest to the internet to find eBay to get this replacement steering wheel sent to Mr. Litwack, so as to save Sugar Rush. Once they get to the internet and they find their way to eBay, they're rather quickly able to win the auction and win that item. But then they find out soon after that they're actually expected to pay real money for it. So the movie becomes a race against the clock to find a way to earn $27,000 on the internet. And it kind of... I'll get into this a little more later, and I don't want to give too much away, but it kind of is that for most of the film, but then you kind of realize at the end that that's never what it was really about anyway, which is actually one of my gripes about the film. I don't want to come off negative, though. I did enjoy this very much because the characters, Vanellope and Ralph, are fun characters, and it's great to just hang out with them. And this world that was created for Wreck-It Ralph is this really fun, interesting world. This world of video game characters, living within the video game worlds. They're all connected together. That's a fascinating world, and by introducing the internet to it, they've expanded this world greatly, and it's a lot of fun. It's really fun to watch. But in this case, there are some flaws. So I didn't enjoy it as much as the original Wreck-It Ralph. And to give you some perspective, though, the original Wreck-It Ralph is among my all-time favorite movies ever. I'm not sure where it ranks on the list, but it's up there. So, yeah, I love Wreck-It Ralph. I love the original one. This one, I liked it. Won't go so far as to say I loved it, because of some problems with it. Because, first of all, once they do get the money to get the steering wheel, that part of the movie just kind of fizzles out. That kind of fades away. There's no, triumph there. There's no moment of triumph as they succeed in what the whole movie has been about up to this point, because at that point, they kind of reveal that, no, they told you this story so that they could tell you this other story. And that becomes what the movie's about. Not to get into that would be a little too spoilery, so I'm not going to tell you that, but they do a kind of a switcheroo on you. They say this is what the movie is about up to this point, and then it turns out that wasn't important. The movie's really about this, which is kind of jarring. I didn't like that too much. But uh, that's it is what it is. Also, the I get the impression that the best, funniest version of this movie was like a draft or two before the final draft, because I'm getting hints of like great potential in this movie, which really they don't do enough with. You've got this idea of them having to raise money on the internet. And really, they have only two plans. The first plan fails, and then the second plan succeeds. And most of the movie, or at least most of that part of the movie, we follow that second plan. But which is fine, but seemed like there was a lot more they could do. There's also there is a mid-credit scene in which, and I actually was thinking of this. There's the funniest scene in the trailers did not make it into the main film, and I remembered that as the credits had started to roll, but I realized that the way that the movie ended up, it wouldn't have fit in anyway. But then we have a mid-credit scene start, where it's a little girl and her mother in a car, and the mother asks the little girl how she liked the movie, and the little girl says that she was sad that there was a scene from the trailer that didn't make it into the movie. And then that just segues right into the scene from the Ralph Breaks the Internet trailer that I was thinking about, which was the funniest scene for the trailers that didn't make it into the movie. Again, it's the funniest scene in the movie as well, but it didn't make it in the movie, and they totally highlight that in the end credits. It's like, oh, hey, we had this great scene, couldn't fit it in the movie anywhere else, so, here you go. And I think that may have come from a draft of the movie. Now, I have no inside knowledge. I could be totally wrong on this. But I think it may have come from a draft of the movie where they do try a lot of different things. Like the first plan, I'll tell you what the first plan was. The first plan was they follow a pop-up ad who explains to them that there are people who will pay money if they go and win items that are hard to win in video games. And then they will buy the hard-to-win video game items. But they only go into one game and try to win one item, and when they fail that, they go to Plan B. But it seems like there's probably a draft where they went into a whole bunch of different games, online games, to try to win items, which this scene would have fit into a story like that. And I think that is kind of the movie I wanted to see, because, man, the comedy potential of just Ralph and Vanellope just going from online game to online game throughout the internet, and just bringing their own perspective on the game and their own enthusiasm to it, kind of like this end credit scene or mid credit scene. And that was that's like some comedy gold there that we didn't get, because it didn't end up fitting the story the way they ended up wanting to tell it. I think that, maybe this is a case where if it had been a little lighter on story and a little bigger on comedy, a little bigger on laughs, I think it may have actually been a better film for it. In this case, that's not always going to be the case, but I think in this case it might have been. There's also, when they're going on this quest, Felix tells Ralph that he's gonna cover for him in his game while he's gone. And I'm thinking, well, how is Felix gonna cover for Ralph? Because Ralph being missing from his game was like a very big deal in the first movie. So if Ralph is gonna be missing from his game again, how is that going to play out? We never see. Felix just says, I'll cover for you, and it's not an issue. And I'm wondering, what are they going to do? Did they going to dress up Zangief in Ralph's clothes and have him try to wreck the building? And if so, why didn't I see that? Because that, again, comedy gold. But we didn't see it. We didn't see it at all. Also, Felix and Sergeant Calhoun had decided to adopt all the other racers from Sugar Rush while their game was unplugged, and like they were their kids. And we see a scene of Felix, just realizing just how much he's gotten himself into, now suddenly becoming a father to these rambunctious kids. And then we never see them again, Felix, Sergeant Calhoun, or these kids from Sugar Rush, until the very end of the movie, where it's just there's a joke about it, and that just ties the whole thing up just a little too neatly. It's a good joke, but it just ties the whole thing up a little too neatly, and that joke still could have worked even if we had been seeing a little bit more of Felix's struggles trying to be a father to these kids. So again, I think there's probably a draft of the movie somewhere where we kept intercutting back to the arcade and seeing what was going on, or at least had a scene that gave us an update of what was going on in the arcade while Ralph and Vanellope were on this quest. But as the movie turned out, we don't go back to the arcade until the very end, where everything's just kind of handled itself. And again, there's a lot of potential that just didn't make it into the final product. The final product was fun, but I just seen where it just could have been so much more fun. So I can't call this one of my favorites like the original Wreck-It Ralph. But it's not that I can't recommend it either. It's fun. It's a good way to spend some time in the theater. So I do recommend it, but know that it's not going to be the same thing as the original Wreck-It Ralph. There is some diminishing returns for this sequel, which does happen with sequels sometimes, and I'm afraid this one did fall prey to it. So basically, yeah, that's it. I liked it a lot. Could have been a lot better though. So take that for what it's worth. All right. So if you have some thoughts or feelings about Ralph Breaks the Internet that you wanted to share, put them in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, and that's a wrap.